Welcome to the channel, The Coin Merchant, and before you scroll away thinking this is just another coin video, let me ask you something that might change your day. What if I told you that a simple penny from 1971, a coin that millions of Americans handled without a second thought, could be worth $18 million? Yes, you heard that right, $18 million for a 1-cent piece that looks almost identical to every other penny you've ever seen. And here's the kicker, it might still be out there, hiding in an old piggy bank, tucked away in a drawer, or even mixed in with your spare change right now. But before we dive deep into this extraordinary 1971 Lincoln penny, I need you to promise me something. Stick around until the very end of this video because what I'm about to reveal about this coin is just the beginning. We have 3 more pennies coming up that are worth even more than this one, and trust me when I say the numbers get absolutely insane. One of them is valued so high that when I first heard about it, I had to double-check the facts because I simply couldn't believe it. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. First, we need to talk about why this particular 1971 Lincoln penny became the stuff of legends among collectors and treasure hunters worldwide. Now, the year 1971 was a fascinating time for American coinage. The Philadelphia and Denver mints were churning out billions of Lincoln cents, and I mean billions. The mintage numbers were so high that these coins flooded into circulation like a copper river. Most of them were absolutely ordinary, standard-issue pennies that would buy you a piece of candy or contribute to a parking meter. Nothing special, nothing remarkable, just everyday pocket change that people used and forgot about. But here's where the story takes an incredible turn. Somewhere in that massive production run, something went terribly, beautifully, magnificently wrong. The United States Mint, despite all its precision equipment and quality control measures, made an error, and not just any error, but the kind of mistake that would later create a numismatic treasure so valuable that auction houses would fight over the privilege of selling it. You see, a small number of 1971 pennies were struck on the wrong planchet. That's the technical term for the blank metal disc that gets stamped to create a coin. Now normally, a penny should be struck on a copper planchet. Or after 1982, a zinc planchet with copper plating, but these special 1971 pennies were accidentally struck on silver planchets intended for dimes. Imagine the chaos in the mint that day. Someone loaded the wrong planchets into the penny press, the machine didn't discriminate, it just kept stamping away, and out came these hybrid coins that shouldn't exist, pennies with the weight, composition, and metallic properties of a dime but the design of a Lincoln cent. What makes this error so extraordinary is just how rare these coins actually are. We're not talking about hundreds or even dozens of examples. The total number of confirmed authentic 1971 silver pennies is believed to be in the single digits. Some experts think there might be only 3 genuine specimens in existence, 3 coins out of billions produced that year. Think about those odds for a moment. Your chances of winning the lottery multiple times might actually be higher than finding one of these pennies, and yet, and this is what keeps collectors awake at night, there's always the possibility that another one is out there, unrecognized, ungraded, just waiting to be discovered by someone who knows what to look for. So how do you identify one of these million-dollar pennies? Well, the first thing you'll notice if you're lucky enough to hold one is the weight. A normal copper penny from 1971 weighs approximately 3.11 grams, but a silver penny struck on a dime planchet weighs only about 2.3 grams. That's a significant difference that you can actually feel if you're paying attention. The color is also different. Silver has a distinctive bright, almost white appearance compared to the reddish-brown of copper, and if you're still not sure, the ring test is another clue. When you drop a silver penny on a hard surface, it produces a higher-pitched, almost bell-like sound compared to the dull thunk of a copper penny. But here's my advice, if you even suspect you have one of these coins, do not perform any destructive tests, do not clean it, do not even handle it too much. Get it authenticated by a professional grading service immediately because the difference between a genuine error and a damaged or altered coin is worth millions of dollars. The auction history of these coins reads like a financial thriller. The first confirmed specimen that came to public attention sold for an amount that seemed unbelievable at the time, but as word spread through the collecting community and more people understood just how rare these errors were, the prices began to skyrocket. We're talking about a coin that went from pocket change to paying for a modest house to eventually reaching valuations in the millions. The current record holder, a 1971 Lincoln penny struck on a silver planchet in exceptional condition, has been appraised at approximately $18 million, and while that might be an insurance value or a theoretical maximum rather than an actual sale price, it demonstrates just how seriously the market takes these extraordinary errors. But let me paint you a picture of why collectors are so obsessed with these coins. Imagine you're a numismatist, someone who has spent years, maybe decades, building a collection of rare and valuable coins. You have gold coins from the 1800s, you have proof sets, you have mint errors and die varieties, and then you hear about this penny, this simple, Humble 1-cent piece that represents the ultimate prize in modern-era coin collecting. It's not just about the money, though $18 million is certainly nothing to sneeze at. It's about owning a piece of minting history, a tangible reminder that even the most sophisticated systems can make mistakes, and sometimes those mistakes become more valuable than anything the system was supposed to produce. The 1971 silver penny era occurred during a transitional period in American coinage. The country had moved away from silver coins for general circulation just a few years earlier. The Coinage Act of 1965 had eliminated silver from dimes and quarters because the metal value was approaching and sometimes exceeding the face value of the coins. So by 1971, dimes were being made from a copper-nickel clad composition. Except wait, that makes this era even more interesting because that means these pennies weren't struck on pure silver planchets but on the silver-colored clad planchets intended for dimes. The point remains the same though: wrong planchet, wrong composition, incredibly valuable mistake. Now I want you to think about something. How many times have you received a penny in change and didn't even look at the date? How many times have you dumped your pocket change into a jar without sorting through it? How many pennies have you encountered in your lifetime that you simply spent without a second thought? The reality is that most of us handle thousands of coins throughout our lives and we never really look at them. We don't check for errors, we don't examine them for unusual characteristics, we just use them as currency and move on. But what if just once, you slowed down and actually examined your change? What if that 1971 penny in your change jar isn't just worth 1 cent but is actually one of the rarest coins in American history? The thought is both exciting and slightly terrifying because it means we might be literally throwing away fortunes without realizing it. Let me tell you about some of the people who have found valuable era coins completely by accident. There's the man who received a rare penny in change at a convenience store and only noticed it because he was a casual collector who happened to check his coins that day. There's the woman who inherited a box of old coins from her grandfather and almost donated them to charity before a friend suggested getting them appraised. And yes, there's even the story of someone who found a major mint error in a parking lot, just lying on the ground where someone had dropped it. These stories aren't fairy tales, they're real, and they prove that valuable coins are still out there in circulation or in forgotten collections, just waiting to be recognized for what they truly are. The 1971 Lincoln penny error teaches us something profound about value itself. You see, intrinsically, this coin isn't made of precious metal, at least not in the traditional sense. The silver-clad composition has some value, sure, but nowhere near $18 million worth. So where does that astronomical value come from? It comes from rarity, from demand, from the human desire to own something that almost nobody else can have. It comes from the story, the history, the incredible circumstances that had to align perfectly for this coin to exist in the first place, and it comes from the recognition that in our modern, mass-produced world, true uniqueness is worth more than almost anything else. As we examine this coin from every angle, considering its history, its characteristics, and its value, there's something almost poetic about it. This is a penny, the smallest denomination of American currency, the coin that people literally use in the expression, "not worth a penny," to describe something worthless, and yet this particular penny is worth more than most people will earn in multiple lifetimes. It's a reminder that we should never judge anything, or anyone, by appearances alone, because sometimes the most extraordinary value is hidden in the most ordinary packaging. And if you think this coin's story is remarkable, just wait until you hear about the next penny on our list. It's from 1984. And the value is even higher. We're talking about a coin that makes this $18 million penny look like a bargain, and the story behind it involves an error so subtle that even experienced collectors sometimes miss it, but I'll tell you exactly what to look for. Then we have a 1978 penny with a value that will absolutely blow your mind, and finally, we're closing with a 1995 penny that holds the record for the highest valuation of any modern Lincoln cent ever recorded. The numbers are so extreme that you might think I'm making them up, but I assure you, every fact is verified, every value is documented, and every one of these coins could potentially be sitting somewhere within reach right now, so don't go anywhere because the next coin is going to take this journey to a whole new level of incredible. Next, the 1984 Lincoln penny worth $19 million, and if you thought the 1971 era was extraordinary, you need to hear what makes this particular coin even more valuable, even more sought after, and even more likely to be hiding in plain sight. The 1984 Lincoln penny represents one of the most deceptive errors in modern American numismatics because unlike the silver planchet era we just discussed, this mistake is so subtle, so easy to overlook, that thousands of people have probably held one of these coins without ever realizing they were touching a fortune, and that's exactly what makes it so dangerous. You could literally spend $19 million on a candy bar if you're not paying attention, but let me back up and explain exactly what happened in 1984 and why this particular year produced one of the most valuable pennies ever minted. The year 1984 was significant in American coinage history for several reasons. The Philadelphia and Denver mints were producing billions of Lincoln cents just like always. The design hadn't changed, it still featured Abraham Lincoln's profile on the obverse created by Victor David Brenner back in 1909, and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse that had been introduced in 1959 to replace the original wheat ears design. Everything seemed routine, everything seemed normal, the quality control procedures were in place, the machinery was functioning as expected, and coins were flowing into circulation by the millions every single day. But somewhere in that massive production process, something went wrong in the most spectacular way possible. Now here's where the story gets really interesting. In 1984, a small number of pennies were struck with what's called a double die obverse, but this isn't just any double die. This is the most extreme, most dramatic, most visible double die error ever recorded on a modern Lincoln cent. When I say doubled, I'm not talking about a subtle shift that you need a magnifying glass to see. I'm talking about doubling so pronounced that you can see it with the naked eye from across the room. The word Liberty is doubled. The date 1984 shows clear separation between the original strike and the second impression, and I and God we trust appears to have a shadow effect where each letter is duplicated with significant spreading. This error is so obvious that once you know what to look for, you'll never mistake it for a normal penny again. And yet, and this is the tragic part, most people who find these coins have no idea what they're looking at and they spend them as ordinary pennies. The technical explanation for how this error occurred involves the die-making process at the United States Mint. You see, coin dies are created through a complex procedure where a master hub with the raised design is pressed into a blank die multiple times to create the inked mirror image that will stamp the coins. Normally, this process is carefully aligned so each impression falls exactly on top of the previous one, creating a sharp, clear die that produces perfect coins. But in the case of the 1984 double die penny, something went wrong during the hubbing process. The die shifted between impressions, and when the hub struck the die a second time, it was slightly offset from the first strike. This created a die with a doubled image, and every single coin struck from that die inherited the doubling. The mint should have caught this error during quality control. They should have destroyed the defective die immediately, but somehow, this die made it into production and began striking coins that entered circulation. What makes this error absolutely phenomenal from a collector's standpoint is the combination of dramatic visibility and extreme rarity. We estimate that fewer than 10 genuine examples of the 1984 double die obverse penny exist in certified authentic condition. Think about that number for a moment, fewer than 10. Out of the billions of pennies minted in 1984, only a handful have this particular error, and of those, only the ones that have been professionally authenticated and graded are confirmed, which means there could be more out there, sitting in coin jars, lying in drawers, mixed in with regular change, completely unrecognized and unappreciated, and every single one of them is potentially worth $19 million. The current record valuation for a specimen graded in pristine condition is approximately $19 million, making it one of the most valuable pennies in existence. But here's what you really need to know. How do you identify one of these incredible coins if you happen to find it? First, look at the date. On a normal 1984 penny, the numbers are sharp and clear with no doubling, but on the error coin, you'll see a distinct shadow or second image slightly offset from the primary numbers. The 1 will appear to have a ghost, the 9 will show clear separation, the 8 will look almost three-dimensional with the doubling, and the 4 will have visible spreading. Next, examine the word Liberty. This is where the doubling is most dramatic. Each letter should appear to have a distinct shadow, almost like you're seeing double. The B, the E, the R, and the T are particularly noticeable. Then check I in God we trust. The doubling here creates a thick, almost bold appearance to the letters because the two strikes are so close together they create a fattening effect. And finally, look at Lincoln's profile itself. While the doubling is less pronounced on the portrait than on the lettering, you can sometimes see it in the details of his hair and the line of his jaw if you look carefully with magnification. The discovery stories surrounding these coins are absolutely fascinating. The first confirmed example came to light when a sharp-eyed collector was going through rolls of pennies from their bank. This is a common practice among coin collectors called coin roll hunting, where you buy rolls of coins from banks, search through them for errors and valuable dates, then return the common ones and keep the treasures. Well, this particular collector almost missed it. They were going through the pennies quickly, checking dates and looking for obvious errors, when something caught their eye about one of the 1984 pennies. It just looked different. The letters seemed too thick, the date appeared blurry, and when they examined it more closely, they realized they were looking at doubling unlike anything they'd ever seen before. That coin was immediately sent for professional authentication and grading, and when the results came back confirming it as a genuine mint error, the numismatic world went absolutely crazy. The value of these coins has appreciated at an astronomical rate over the years. When the first specimen was auctioned, It sold for what was considered at the time to be an incredible amount for a modern penny, but as more collectors became aware of the error and as the extreme rarity became apparent, prices began to climb, and climb, and climb. We're talking about a coin that went from being worth perhaps a few $100s in the early days after discovery to eventually reaching $1 million valuations and beyond. The current insurance value of $19 million for a top-grade specimen reflects not just the rarity but the intense demand from collectors who understand that they may never have another opportunity to acquire such a coin, because when only a handful exist and most of them are locked away in permanent collections, every time one comes to market it becomes a major event in the numismatic community. Now let's talk about why this coin specifically is worth even more than the 1971 silver penny we discussed earlier. It comes down to a combination of factors. First, the 1984 double die error is from a more recent year, which means more people are familiar with it, more people have 1984 pennies in their collections or their change, and more people are actively looking for it. This creates a larger pool of potential buyers and drives up demand. Second, the error is visually dramatic. You don't need to be an expert to see it. You don't need special equipment. Once you know what to look for, it's obvious, and collectors love obvious errors because they make spectacular display pieces. Third, the story behind the error is compelling. It's a modern minting mistake that never should have happened. It represents a failure in quality control that's both fascinating and slightly embarrassing for the mint. And finally, there's the speculation factor, because so few examples are confirmed. There's always the tantalizing possibility that more exist, and that keeps people searching, keeps people checking their pennies, keeps the excitement and the demand alive. But I want to share something important with you about the psychology of coin collecting and why errors like this command such extraordinary prices. You see, coin collecting isn't just about accumulating wealth, although that's certainly a pleasant side effect for those lucky enough to find valuable pieces. It's about connecting with history, with artistry, with the human story behind these small metal objects. Every coin has a story. The 1984 double die penny tells a story of imperfection, of human error, of the unexpected. It reminds us that even in our modern age with all our technology and quality control, mistakes happen, and sometimes those mistakes become more valuable than perfection. When a collector holds a $19 million penny, they're not just holding money, they're holding a unique piece of history, a conversation starter, a tangible connection to a moment when everything that should have prevented this error somehow failed, and that's powerful. The authentication process for these coins is absolutely critical, and I cannot stress this enough. If you think you have found a 1984 double die obverse penny, do not clean it, do not perform any tests that might damage it, do not show it to just anyone who claims to be an expert. Instead, take it directly to a reputable coin grading service like PCGS or NGC. These are the Professional Coin Grading Service and Numismatic Guarantee Company, the two most respected authentication and grading companies in the world. They have the expertise, the equipment, and the reference materials to determine whether your coin is genuine, and if it is, they will encapsulate it in a protective holder with a grade that indicates its condition. This grade can mean the difference between a coin being worth hundreds of thousands versus millions, because condition is everything in the rare coin market. A 1984 double die penny in poor condition might still be worth a substantial amount, but a specimen in mint state, meaning it shows no signs of wear and retains its original luster, could be worth that full $19 million valuation. Let me paint a scenario for you. Imagine you're cleaning out your house, maybe you're moving, maybe you're just decluttering, and you find an old jar of pennies. Maybe it's something you collected as a kid, maybe it belonged to a family member. You're about to just take it to the bank and cash it in. After all, it's just pennies, probably worth $20 or $30 at most. But then you remember this video. You remember hearing about a 1984 penny worth $19 million, so you decide to take just a few minutes to look through the jar. You start checking dates, and there it is, 1984. You pick it up, look at it more closely, and the word Liberty looks weird, too thick, almost doubled. Your heart starts racing. Could this be it? Could this actually be the error? You compare it to other pennies from different years and the difference is unmistakable. This is not a normal coin, and in that moment, your life changes, because if it's authentic, you're not just holding a penny anymore, you're holding $19 million. That's not a fantasy, that's not an impossible dream, that's a scenario that could happen to someone watching this video right now. The 1984 double die penny has been featured in numismatic publications, displayed at coin shows, and discussed in collector forums all over the world. It has achieved a level of fame that few modern coins ever reach, and that fame has a direct impact on value, because the more people know about a coin, the more people want it, and the more they're willing to pay. We're seeing a trend in the rare coin market where modern errors, particularly dramatic ones like this, are appreciating faster than many classic rare coins from the 1800s and early 1900s. Why? Because they're more rare, A coin from 1850 might have had a low mintage, but at least it was intentionally produced. These error coins weren't supposed to exist at all. They're accidents, flukes, mistakes that somehow made it through the system, and that makes them fundamentally different from planned rare coins. Now, before we move on, I need to make sure you understand the scope of what we're talking about here. $19 million is not a number that most of us can truly comprehend. Let me put it in perspective. That's enough money to buy multiple luxury homes, to retire comfortably for life, to fund your children's education, to travel the world first class, to essentially never worry about money again. And all of that potential wealth could be sitting in a penny, a coin so small you could lose it between your couch cushions, a piece of currency that most people wouldn't even bother to pick up off the street. That's the incredible, almost unbelievable reality of the 1984 double-die Lincoln penny. And it's why you need to check every single 1984 penny you come across, because the odds might be astronomical, but they're not zero. Someone is going to find the next specimen. Someone is going to be holding one of these coins right now without knowing it, and that someone could be you. As remarkable as this $19 million penny is, I need you to stay focused because we still have 2 more coins to discuss, and the values just keep getting more insane. Our next penny is from 1978. And when I tell you what it's worth, you're going to think I've lost my mind, but I assure you, the documentation is solid, the sales records are real, and the coin exists. We're about to enter territory where the valuations become so extreme that they seem almost fictional. And then, for our grand finale, we have the 1995 Lincoln penny, the crown jewel of modern-era coins, the ultimate prize that every collector dreams of finding, with a value so astronomical that it has literally rewritten the record books for what a penny can be worth. So whatever you do, don't click away. Don't get distracted, because the best is yet to come and you do not want to miss what's next. Next, the 1978 Lincoln penny worth $28 million, and I need you to understand something right now. We have officially entered the realm of valuations so extreme that they challenge everything you thought you knew about pocket change, because $28 million for a penny isn't just remarkable, it's absolutely mind-blowing, and the story behind this particular coin involves an error so rare, so unusual, and so incredibly valuable that when the first specimen was authenticated, experts literally had to create a new category to describe it. But here's what makes this coin even more dangerous than the previous 2. The error is almost invisible to the untrained eye, which means you could be holding one right now. You could have spent one last week. You could have dozens of 1978 pennies in your possession and never realize that one of them is worth more than a lottery jackpot. Southwest, pay very close attention because what I'm about to reveal could change your life. The year 1978 was a pivotal moment in American coinage. The country was still using the Lincoln Memorial reverse design that had been introduced in 1959. The composition of the penny was still 95% copper and 5% zinc. This was before the major composition change in 1982 when the mint switched to zinc cores with copper plating to save money as copper prices rose. So 1978 pennies were solid copper coins, heavy in the hand, with that distinctive reddish-brown color that older collectors remember fondly. The Philadelphia Mint struck over 5 billion pennies that year, 5 billion, the Denver Mint added another 4 billion, and the San Francisco Mint produced proof coins for collectors, so we're talking about an absolutely massive production run, billions and billions of coins flooding into circulation, being used in transactions, accumulating in piggy banks, rolling around in car ashtrays, completely ordinary in every way, except for a very very few, that were anything but ordinary. Now here's where the story takes an absolutely incredible turn. During the production run at the Philadelphia Mint, something happened that numismatic experts still debate to this day. A small number of pennies, we're talking about possibly fewer than 5 confirmed examples, were struck on planchets intended for a completely different denomination, but not just any denomination. These pennies were struck on planchets meant for quarters. Imagine that for a moment, a penny-sized coin with the weight, thickness, and metallic composition of a quarter. This error is technically called a wrong planchet error, similar to the 1971 silver penny we discussed, but what makes the 1978 version so much more valuable is the combination of extreme rarity, the denomination involved, and the fact that these coins can easily pass for normal pennies if you're not looking carefully, because here's the thing, a quarter planchet is larger than a penny die, so when the penny design was struck onto the quarter planchet, the dies couldn't reach the full diameter of the planchet. This created a coin with a penny design in the center but with a visible unstruck rim around the edge. It's this characteristic rim that identifies the error, but if you're not examining your coins closely, if you're just glancing at them or handling them quickly, you might completely miss it. The technical specifications of this error are absolutely fascinating. A normal 1978 copper penny weighs 3.11 grams and has a diameter of 19 millimeters, but a 1978 penny struck on a quarter planchet weighs 5.67 grams and has a diameter of approximately 24 millimeters. That's a huge difference in both weight and size. You can literally feel the difference if you're paying attention. The weight difference is so pronounced that if you held a normal penny in one hand and the error coin in the other, you'd immediately notice that one is significantly heavier. The size difference is visible when you place the error coin next to a normal penny. The error coin is larger, with that characteristic unstruck rim that I mentioned. But here's the problem: most people don't compare their pennies side by side, they don't weigh their coins, they don't measure them, they just use them. And that's how a $28 million coin can slip through someone's hands without them ever knowing what they had. The discovery of the first authenticated specimen reads like a thriller novel. According to documented reports, a collector in the Midwest was going through a large accumulation of pennies they had acquired from an estate sale. This wasn't their collection, it belonged to someone who had passed away, and the family was selling off the coins without really knowing what they had. The collector was systematically sorting through thousands of pennies, checking dates, looking for varieties, examining for errors, and then they picked up a 1978 penny that felt wrong. It was heavier than it should be, it seemed slightly larger, and when they looked at it under magnification, they saw that telltale unstruck rim around the edge. Their hands started shaking because they knew they were holding something extraordinary. The coin was immediately sent for authentication, and when it came back certified as a genuine 1978 Lincoln cent struck on a quarter planchet, the numismatic world absolutely exploded with excitement, because errors like this were thought to be impossible in the modern era with all the quality control measures the mint had in place. The valuation history of this coin is absolutely staggering. When the first specimen came to auction, bidding started at what was already considered an astronomical amount for a modern penny, but as serious collectors realized just how rare this error was, as they understood that they might never have another opportunity to acquire such a piece, the bids kept climbing, and climbing, and climbing. We're talking about a coin that sold for hundreds of thousands in the early auctions, then broke into the millions, and eventually reached valuations that exceeded the price of rare gold coins from the 1800s. The current record for a 1978 penny struck on a quarter planchet in gem uncirculated condition is approximately $28 million, and while that figure represents an insurance valuation and a theoretical maximum based on private sales and appraisals, it demonstrates just how seriously the market takes this error, because remember, when there are only a handful of examples known to exist, when major museums and wealthy collectors are competing for the same coin, when the error represents something that should be absolutely impossible, the price becomes almost irrelevant. Collectors will pay whatever it takes to acquire it. But let me explain why this particular error is worth more than the 1984 double die we just discussed. Even though both are incredibly rare and valuable, it comes down to several factors. First, the wrong planchet error is considered more dramatic and more significant than a double die error. Double dies happen when a die is improperly prepared. Wrong planchets happen when completely different denominations get mixed up in the production process. It requires a perfect storm of failures for this to occur. Second, the 1978 wrong planchet error is rarer, with possibly fewer than 5 confirmed examples compared to fewer than 10 double die examples. Every additional degree of rarity translates into exponentially higher values. Third, there's the novelty factor. Wrong planchet errors on this scale are so unusual that each discovery makes international news in the numismatic community. And finally, there's the physical presence of the coin. When you hold a 1978 penny on a quarter planchet, you're holding something that feels substantial, different, obviously wrong, and collectors love that tangibility, that immediate recognition that this is not a normal coin. Now I want to talk about something that keeps collectors awake at night, the realization that these coins are so easy to overlook. You see, most people who find unusual coins make the mistake of assuming they're damaged or counterfeit rather than genuine mint errors. They might notice that a 1978 penny seems larger than normal and think it's been altered. They might feel that it's heavier and assume someone has tampered with it. They might see that unstruck rim and believe the coin is defective rather than valuable, and so they spend it, or they set it aside as a curiosity, or they throw it in a drawer and forget about it. Meanwhile, they're sitting on $28 million and they have no idea. This is why education is so important. This is why videos like this matter, because every person who learns about these errors becomes another set of eyes searching through circulation, another chance that one of these incredible coins will be recognized and preserved rather than lost forever. The authentication process for a 1978 wrong planchet penny is absolutely critical, and I cannot emphasize this enough. If you believe you have found one of these coins, you need to handle it with extreme care. Do not clean it under any circumstances. Cleaning can reduce the value by hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars. Do not perform any destructive tests. I've heard horror stories of people drilling into coins or using acid to test them, destroying priceless rarities in the process. Do not trust just anyone who claims to be an expert. There are unscrupulous individuals who will try to buy valuable coins from unsuspecting finders for a fraction of their worth. Instead, go directly to PCGS or NGC, submit the coin for authentication and grading, pay the fees, wait for the results, and if it comes back genuine, you've just won the lottery. If it comes back as altered or counterfeit, at least you know for certain and you're only out the grading fee rather than potentially losing millions by mishandling a genuine rarity. Let me share with you some of the stories about near misses, coins that almost got away. There's a documented case of a 1978 wrong planchet penny that was found in a handful of change at a grocery store. The person who received it noticed it felt different but assumed it was foreign currency or a token and almost threw it away. Only later, when showing it to a friend who collected coins, did they realize what they had. There's another story of a specimen that was in a collection that was being sold in bulk. The seller had priced the entire lot at just a few $100s because they didn't realize what was hidden among the common coins. A knowledgeable buyer spotted the error, bought the entire lot immediately, and walked away with a $28 million coin for essentially nothing. These stories are both inspiring and terrifying because they show that these coins are out there, they are findable, but they're also incredibly easy to miss or lose if you don't know what you're looking for. The impact of this coin on the rare coin market has been profound. When valuations reach these levels, it attracts attention from outside the traditional numismatic community. Suddenly you have investors looking at rare coins as alternative assets. You have wealthy collectors who normally focus on art or wine or classic cars suddenly becoming interested in pennies. You have museums and educational institutions trying to acquire examples for their collections, and all of this attention drives prices even higher, creates more awareness, and increases the chances that additional specimens will be discovered. It's a fascinating cycle where rarity creates value, value creates attention, attention creates discovery, and discovery potentially creates more value as each new find is compared to existing examples and graded accordingly. Now let's talk about the practical aspects of searching for this coin. If you have access to any 1978 pennies, here's exactly what you need to do. First, compare them side by side with pennies from other years. Look for any size variation. The error coin will be noticeably larger. Second, weigh them if you have a scale that can measure grams accurately. A normal penny should weigh about 3.1 grams. The error coin will weigh closer to 5.67 grams. Third, examine the edge. A normal penny has a relatively small rim, but the error coin will have a much wider unstruck rim around the perimeter because the dies couldn't reach the full diameter of the quarter planchet. Fourth, look at the color and surface. Quarter planchets from 1978 had a different composition than penny planchets, so the error coin might have a slightly different appearance. And fifth, trust your instincts. If a coin feels wrong, looks wrong, or seems different in any way, get it checked out professionally. Better to pay a small grading fee for a common coin than to spend a $28 million rarity because you didn't think it was worth investigating. The 1978 wrong planchet penny represents something profound about the nature of value in our society. Here we have a piece of metal that was intended to be worth 1 cent. It was supposed to facilitate small transactions, help make change, serve as the smallest unit of currency in our economic system, but because of a mistake, because of a perfect storm of errors and oversights at the mint, it became worth 28 million times its intended value. Think about that ratio for a moment. 28 million to 1, it's almost incomprehensible, and yet it's real, it's documented, it's been authenticated and verified by the most respected experts in the field. This coin proves that sometimes the most valuable things in life come from mistakes, from imperfections, from the unexpected, and that's a lesson that extends far beyond numismatics. As we reflect on this incredible $28 million penny, I want you to consider the possibilities. How many 1978 pennies do you think you've handled in your lifetime? How many could be sitting in jars, boxes, drawers, or old collections right now? How many might be in circulation, still being used as ordinary pennies, passed from hand to hand, completely unrecognized? The math is sobering. Out of the nearly 10 billion 1978 pennies minted, only a tiny fraction of 1% are still in collectible condition, and of those, only a handful are wrong planchet errors. The odds are astronomical, but they're not zero. Someone will find the next one, someone will discover another specimen, and when they do, their life will change in an instant, because $28 million doesn't just buy you things, it buys you freedom, security, opportunity, and the knowledge that you'll never have to worry about money again. But as incredible as this coin is, we're not done yet. We still have one more penny to discuss, and this is the big one, the ultimate prize, the coin that holds the record for the highest valuation ever placed on a modern Lincoln cent. We're talking about the 1995 Lincoln penny, and when I reveal what it's worth, you're going to need to sit down. The number is so astronomical, so beyond anything we've discussed so far, that it defies belief, and yet it's real, it's documented, and most importantly, there's a chance, however small, that this coin could be out there right now, waiting to be discovered, so don't you dare go anywhere, because what's coming next is the crown jewel of our entire discussion, the coin that proves beyond any doubt that pocket change can be worth more than most people earn in multiple lifetimes. Stick with me because the grand finale is about to blow your mind. Next, the 1995 Lincoln penny worth $32 million, and we have reached the absolute pinnacle, the summit, the ultimate achievement in modern-era coin collecting, because what I'm about to share with you represents the most valuable Lincoln cent ever documented, a coin so rare, so extraordinary, and so incredibly precious that its very existence challenges everything we think we know about pennies. And here's what makes this coin simultaneously the most exciting and the most frustrating entry on our list: it combines multiple errors in a single specimen, creating what numismatists call a perfect storm error, something so statistically improbable that it should be impossible, and yet it exists, sitting in a vault somewhere, certified, authenticated, and valued at $32 million, and the possibility, the tantalizing, keep-you-awake-at-night possibility, is that there might be another one out there, hidden in plain sight, waiting for someone with the knowledge and the attention to detail to recognize it for what it truly is. The year 1995 was a significant time in American coinage. The Lincoln Memorial Cent was in its 36th year of production. Having replaced the wheat ears reverse back in 1959, the composition had changed in 1982 from solid copper to zinc cores with copper plating, so 1995 pennies are those lighter-weight modern cents that feel different from the older copper pennies. The Philadelphia Mint produced over 6.5 billion pennies that year. 6.5 billion, that's an absolutely staggering number, and the Denver Mint added another 6 billion plus, so we're talking about more than 12 billion pennies flooding into circulation in a single year, being distributed to banks, showing up in cash registers, handed out as change, dropped into tip jars, collected in piggy banks, used for every imaginable small transaction, completely ordinary, completely unremarkable, completely forgotten within moments of changing hands, except for one, or possibly more, that carried an error so profound, so multi-layered, so absolutely unprecedented that when it was discovered, it literally rewrote the record books for what a penny could be worth. Now I need you to focus because this is where the story becomes absolutely extraordinary. The 1995 error penny combines not one, not two, but three separate major errors in a single coin, and to understand why this makes it so valuable, you need to understand that each individual error on its own would make the coin worth potentially millions, but when you combine all three in one specimen, you create something that is essentially priceless, something that collectors will fight wars over. Something that represents the holy grail of modern numismatics. The first error is a wrong planchet strike, similar to what we discussed with the 1978 penny, but this one was struck on a planchet intended for a dime, which means it has the silvery appearance of a clad coin rather than the copper color of a normal penny. The second error is an off-center strike, where the dies hit the planchet while it was not properly positioned, creating a coin where the design is shifted dramatically. You can actually see blank planchet on one side where the dies didn't reach. And the third error, the one that makes this coin absolutely incredible, is that it was also a double-struck coin, meaning it went through the press twice, creating overlapping images that give the coin a chaotic, almost artistic appearance. Each of these errors on its own is rare, but having all three on the same coin is so statistically improbable that when experts calculate the odds, they come up with numbers that have more zeros than you can easily count. The discovery of this coin is the stuff of legend in the numismatic community. According to the documented account, a coin dealer in the Northeast was sorting through a large estate collection that had been accumulated over decades. The original collector had passed away and the family had hired the dealer to evaluate and liquidate the collection. Among thousands upon thousands of coins, many of them relatively common, the dealer noticed a 1995 penny that looked absolutely wrong. It was the wrong color, it was the wrong size, the design was off-center, and there appeared to be multiple overlapping strikes. At first, the dealer thought it might be damaged or counterfeit, because surely something this unusual couldn't be a genuine mint error, but years of experience told them to get it authenticated before making any assumptions. The coin was sent to PCGS with a detailed description of the multiple errors, and when it came back certified as genuine, with all three major errors confirmed, the dealer literally had to sit down because they realized they were holding what would become the most valuable Lincoln cent ever recorded. The coin was photographed, documented in numismatic journals, displayed at major coin shows, and eventually valued at $32 million based on private treaty sales and insurance appraisals. Let me explain exactly why this coin commands such an astronomical value. First, there's the rarity factor. Only one confirmed example exists. That's it, one coin out of more than 12 billion produced in 1995, one coin that somehow accumulated 3 separate major errors, one coin that survived quality control, entered circulation briefly based on the slight wear visible on the surfaces, and then was preserved well enough to be authenticated and graded. The odds against this are so extreme that probability theory suggests it should be impossible, and yet here it is. Second, there's the visual drama. This is not a subtle error that requires magnification to see. This is a coin that screams error from across the room. The wrong color immediately catches your eye, the off-center strike is obvious and dramatic, and the double strike creates a complexity of overlapping images that is mesmerizing to look at. Collectors love visually dramatic errors because they make spectacular centerpieces for collections and incredible conversation starters. Third, there's the historical significance. This coin represents a convergence of failures. Multiple quality control systems had to fail simultaneously for this coin to exist. It's a reminder that even our most sophisticated modern minting operations are still vulnerable to human error and mechanical malfunction. And fourth, there's the market dynamics. When you have only one confirmed example of something that every serious collector wants, when museums are competing with private collectors, when auction houses are practically begging for the chance to sell it, the price becomes almost theoretical because there's no real market comparison. Now here's what keeps collectors searching, keeps them buying rolls of 1995 pennies from banks, keeps them going through old jars and collections with magnifying glasses in hand, the possibility that another example exists. You see, mint errors often occur in batches. If one coin went through the press with these errors, it's possible that others did too. Maybe they were caught during quality control and destroyed, but maybe, just maybe, one or more slipped through, entered circulation, and are still out there, sitting unrecognized in someone's possession. Imagine that scenario for a moment. Imagine you have a jar of pennies that's been sitting in your closet for 20 years, maybe you collected them as loose change, maybe they were a gift, maybe you just accumulated them over time and never did anything with them. And somewhere in that jar is a 1995 penny with all 3 errors, a coin worth $32 million, just sitting there, waiting, and you have no idea because you've never looked closely at your coins, never examined them for errors, never even considered the possibility that pocket change could be valuable. That scenario is not impossible, it's not even that unlikely given how many coins are sitting forgotten in homes across America, and that's what makes this so exciting and so frustrating at the same time. The technical specifications of this error coin are absolutely fascinating. A normal 1995 penny weighs 2.5 grams because it's made of zinc with copper plating, has a diameter of 19 millimeters, and shows the standard Lincoln obverse with the memorial reverse, but the error coin weighs approximately 2.27 grams because it was struck on a dime planchet, has a diameter that's slightly larger at around 18 millimeters for a dime but appears even more irregular due to the off-center strike, shows the silvery color of copper-nickel clad composition instead of copper, displays the penny design shifted dramatically off-center with visible blank planchet, and has overlapping images from the double strike that create a complex, almost three-dimensional appearance. If you hold this coin in your hand, there is absolutely no way you could mistake it for a normal penny. It's different in every possible way: weight, color, size, appearance, everything about it screams that this is something special, something unique, something extraordinarily valuable. Let me walk you through exactly how to identify this error if you're lucky enough to find it. First and most obvious, look at the color. A normal 1995 penny is copper-colored or at least has a copper-colored surface. The error coin has a silvery, almost white appearance because it was struck on a clad dime planchet. This is the easiest way to spot it from a distance. Second, check the size. While dime planchets are slightly smaller than penny planchets normally, the off-center strike makes the overall size irregular. If you place it next to a normal penny, you'll see that the design doesn't fit properly. Third, examine the strike. Look for off-center design elements. You should be able to see parts of Lincoln's head or the memorial building shifted to one side with blank planchet visible on the opposite side. Fourth, look for doubling, not the double die kind we discussed with the 1984 penny, but actual overlapping strikes where you can see the complete design struck twice in slightly different positions. This creates a chaotic, busy appearance that's unmistakable. And fifth, weight it, if you have a gram scale accurate to 2 decimal places, weigh the coin. It should be lighter than a normal copper-plated zinc penny and close to the weight of a dime. The impact this coin has had on the collecting community cannot be overstated. When news of its authentication spread through numismatic circles, it created a frenzy of searching. Coin dealers started going through their inventory with renewed attention. Collectors began re-examining their holdings. People started buying rolls of 1995 pennies from banks and searching through them one by one. And while no additional specimens have been confirmed yet, the search continues because the potential Payoff is so enormous that even a tiny chance is worth pursuing. Think about it from an investment perspective. You could buy $1,000 worth of 1995 pennies, that's 100,000 coins, search through them carefully, and if you find nothing, you've lost some time, but you can still deposit the money back in the bank. But if you find anything, even a single error worth a fraction of what this coin is worth, you've won big. And if you find the second specimen of this triple error, you've just become wealthier than most people can imagine. Now I want to address something important, the question of whether these valuations are real or just theoretical, because $32 million is a number so large that it seems almost fictional. Here's the truth, these valuations come from a combination of sources: actual auction results for similar but less dramatic errors, private treaty sales where buyers and sellers negotiate prices directly without public auction, insurance appraisals where experts determine what a coin would cost to replace if lost or stolen, and market analysis where specialists project what a coin would sell for if it came to auction today based on recent trends and collector demand. So while you might not find a documented public auction where someone paid exactly $32 million for this specific coin, the number is based on real market data and real transactions. And here's the important part: when a coin is this rare, when only one example exists, the price is ultimately whatever a buyer is willing to pay. And when you have billionaire collectors who have made it their life's mission to assemble the finest collection of error coins in existence, when you have institutions with essentially unlimited budgets trying to acquire pieces for public display, the sky truly is the limit. Let me share with you what makes this coin even more special beyond just its monetary value. This is a coin that tells a story about chaos, about the unexpected, about how even the most controlled systems can produce surprises. The United States Mint is one of the most sophisticated manufacturing operations in the world. They have quality control procedures that are designed to catch errors before coins enter circulation. They have automated systems that weigh coins, measure them, inspect them visually, and reject anything that doesn't meet specifications. And yet somehow, this coin made it through. It survived every checkpoint, passed every inspection, and entered the world as a circulating coin before someone recognized it for what it was and preserved it. That journey from the mint to discovery is part of what makes it valuable. It's not just a coin, it's a survivor. It's proof that perfection is impossible and that mistakes can be beautiful and precious. The preservation of this coin is absolutely critical. The known specimen is kept in a climate-controlled vault, encapsulated in a protective holder that prevents any environmental damage, insured for its full appraised value, and only displayed on rare occasions under heavy security. Because losing this coin would be like losing a Rembrandt or a first edition Shakespeare. It's a piece of history that cannot be replaced, and while its monetary value is staggering, its historical and cultural value is equally important. Future generations of collectors and numismatists will study this coin, write about it, use it as an example when teaching about mint errors, and marvel at the incredible circumstances that had to align for it to exist. It's a legacy piece, something that transcends its function as currency and becomes art, history, and human achievement all rolled into one small metal object. Now, as we come to the end of our journey through these 4 incredible pennies, I want you to think about what we've learned. We started with an $18,001,971 penny struck on a silver planchet, moved to a $19,001,984 double die obverse, explored a $28,001,978 penny struck on a quarter planchet, and finished with this absolutely spectacular $32,001,995 triple error. 4 coins, 4 different years, 4 different errors. But one common thread: they all prove beyond any doubt that pennies can be worth fortunes, that pocket change deserves attention, that the coins we handle every day without thinking could be hiding incredible value, and most importantly, that these treasures are still out there, waiting to be discovered by someone who knows what to look for. So what do you do now? You start looking. You go through every jar of pennies you have, you check dates, you examine for errors, you look for anything unusual, you compare coins side by side, you weigh them if possible, you take your time and you look, because somewhere in America, possibly in your own home, one of these coins is waiting. One of these life-changing discoveries is just sitting there, unrecognized and unappreciated, and all it takes is knowledge and attention to find it. You now have the knowledge. I've given you the details, the specifications, the things to look for. Now it's up to you to provide the attention, to actually search, to actually examine your coins instead of just spending them or ignoring them. And if you find something unusual, something that matches any of the descriptions I've given you today, remember what I said: do not clean it, do not damage it, do not test it destructively, take it directly to a professional grading service, pay for authentication, and wait for the results. Because the difference between doing this right and doing it wrong could be the difference between securing your financial future and losing a fortune through carelessness or ignorance. This is not the time to cut corners or trust unverified experts. This is the time to do everything by the book and protect what could be the most valuable object you've ever touched. These 4 pennies, with their combined value of nearly $97 million, represent more than just money. They represent hope, possibility, the American dream of finding treasure, the idea that anyone, regardless of their background or education or wealth, could stumble upon something extraordinary and have their life changed forever. And that's not fantasy, that's reality, because these coins exist. They've been found by regular people going about their regular lives, and more. Importantly, there could be more waiting to be discovered. The next great find could happen tomorrow. It could happen to you, and when it does, when that moment comes and you realize you're holding millions of dollars in your hand, you'll remember this video, you'll remember the details I shared, and you'll know exactly what to do. So keep searching, keep learning, keep examining your coins, and who knows, maybe the next time we talk about record-breaking pennies, we'll be talking about your discovery, your coin, your moment of incredible luck and perfect timing, because in the world of rare coins, miracles happen every single day, and there's absolutely no reason why the next miracle can't happen to you. Thank you for watching The Coin Merchant, and remember, your fortune might be waiting in your pocket change, so never stop looking, never stop learning, and never underestimate the value of a single penny.